Welcome to Inspired Changemakers, a podcast about all the amazing things people are doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about creating change in the moments that inspired our guests to activate. My name is Julia Healey, and I'm the CEO of United Charitable. Stay tuned to be inspired. Welcome to the Inspired Changemakers podcast.
I feel so honored. Thank you.
I have been wanting you. I met you a year ago, almost to the day, and I have said over and over again, I cannot wait to have you on this podcast. Just in the little bit that we spoke, I was inspired to learn more about myself. And so I'm so excited to be able to ask you the million questions that I have for you today.
That's so flattering. Thank you.
All right. So let me just do your bio very quickly. Dr. Joy is a board-certified family medicine physician and a sought-after on-air medical expert. In addition to managing her private practice, The Healthy Woman, and teaching young residents, physicians, you find time to model, play basketball, and you stay very active with your sorority.
Yes.
Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Yes.
You are also the founder of White Coats and Gavels, a popular networking group exclusively for female doctor, lawyers, and judges.
Yes.
And you reside in Georgia, and you've welcomed boy-girl twins via IVF in March of 2023.
Yep. 3/23/23 is their birthday. It's a palindrome.
Wow. So you're the mom of two,
Yes.
a doctor,
Yes.
and you are on my podcast today spending your time, and I am so thankful that you are here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. I'm so glad that we made this happen.
So tell me a little bit about your journey into kind of how you were raised and your journey into becoming a physician.
Okay. So my mother's from Thailand and my father's from upstate New York. My mother came over. She's a hot fox. My dad said, I got to lock that down. So he did. So I'm a military brat because he's in the Air Force or was in the Air Force. And so all during my childhood, we traveled up and down the East Coast. And so I was connected to my family, but not necessarily location and material things. When I was in high school, I played basketball. I was pretty good. So I went D1 and I played basketball at a smaller Division I school, Charleston Southern University. And I used to be the ish when I was in high school. So it actually hit my self-esteem and my confidence when my job was to sit the bench and keep the team GPA up when I was in college. Because I came to play, I'm a baller. And it was like, no, boo, you keep your 4.0, sit the bench. Your goal is like 10 minutes a game. And so it was painful at the time, but I know that I needed that for my journey to become a physician. Because if you're always winning at everything and you're never humbled, you're never at the bottom of the totem pole, how do you know how to treat people as they're going through pain? And so after that, I was like, you know what? I always wanted to model and act. So after my junior year at Charleston Southern, I packed my stuff. I left my full scholarship and I went to Los Angeles to pursue modeling and acting. And so my dad said, I'm going to give you a year to do that. So I did that. I found out that in modeling, they wanted thinner. And at the time, they either wanted this beautiful chocolate or this beautiful vanilla girl. I'm mixed and I have a more nebulous, ambiguous look. So there was no place for me. So I didn't get any modeling gigs. Plus, they wanted me thinner. I'm 5'11". I was 163 at the time. They wanted like 150. I don't know how I was supposed to do that. And then when it came to acting, I wasn't a very good actress, so I didn't get any callbacks. So that kind of shut the door at my face. You can't be an actress if you're not a good actress,
Yeah.
So then I just went back to school to Loyola Marymount University. I got my degree in biology and applied to medical school. I failed the first time, got rejected from 27 schools. And then the second time applied again, and I got in to the number one choice, which is Georgia PCOM. It's an osteopathic medical school in Sewanee, Georgia. That was my first choice, and I got in. And ever since then, I'm in private practice, family medicine, outpatient, and I just love that. I have the 3 M's in my life, or 4 now, because I'm a mother. So medicine, I'm a physician, private practice, outpatient, 12 and older men and women. I'm a model, so plus size model. It's crazy. Anything above an 8 is considered plus size, and I'm like a 14. So I think that's crazy that I'm plus size, but I love now that being thicker and being more mature is actually in entertainment and stuff. So I love that. Then also the media. So anytime somebody needs a physician to go along with the dialogue to validate what's happening out in the world. The first time I was on TV, Amy Schumer, she had, where she was throwing up too much. So I got to go on TV, talk about Amy Schumer, and talk about when women have hyperemesis gravidarum, where they can't stop vomiting during their pregnancy. And then the fourth is motherhood that happened last year in 2023. So that is me in a nutshell.
That's amazing. So what made you want to do your own private practice?
When I worked for a big conglomerate in Atlanta, one of the biggest hospital systems, I was the head physician for one of their multi-specialty clinics because I'm family medicine board certified, so I'm a primary care physician. During COVID, there was no time off. So we went literally from seeing patients in person to where we shut down for a little bit, but I was doing telemedicine. It became really exhausting. So I was burned out and emotionally just traumatized from COVID. And it's not just that, it's just the system of working 5 days a week, not getting any time off. Now you have to deal with COVID where people's family members are passing away, people are sick. There's so many psychosocial components that you have to address along with what they came for, which is high blood pressure or diabetes.
Right.
And here we are, someone's crying. I can't say, please be quiet and stop crying so that I can talk about the diabetes.
Right.
You have to do that all together. And basically pouring yourself into someone for that, like 20 patients a day, is exhausting. So I just recall driving to work, and I do not have a history of depression or anxiety. I was wishing that an 18-wheeler would hit me on the way to work. Why? Because if I'm in the ICU, that's a very valid excuse to not go to work.
Yeah.
You can't say anything to me because they're very much so, you need to come to work regardless. And so I needed to heal. I was morally injured. I was burned out physically. And I just took like half a year off and then started my own practice because I wanted time and financial freedom. So I make the same amount of money that I make for the corporate America working 5 days a week. I make probably $100,000 more working 2 days a week.
That's insane.
Being a business owner, yes.
Yeah. And why the healthy woman? Why would you name it that?
My business partner. So as I was going through my fertility journey with infertility, I was at my OB-GYN office, and she's my physician and I'm her primary care doctor. I was telling her how I was burned out, and her practice as OB-GYN is the healthy woman. So do I see men too? Surely. I love my male patients. I love them.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to stay in corporate America medicine to forego just a name of a practice. So I opened up the Healthy Woman, the very first primary care office for her. And I've been enjoying it. I have time and financial freedom. If it wasn't for going in private practice, I would never be a mom because I would never be able to go through the infertility process of going to clinic. They have you come draw labs, do ultrasounds multiple times a week. If I stayed with corporate America, I would never be a mom.
And why do you like helping women with all of their journeys in their health?
Number one, I am a woman, and my demographic that I see is it's 80% women. And I see women, they basically wear all the hats, the mommy, the wife, the school, the coach, the this, the that. And they continue to just sustain that until they just topple over. And that's when they come to me and they just bomb it. That just one day I was doing all the things. I wasn't getting sleep. I wasn't taking care of myself. And then just one day my body said, F you. And I toppled over and I'm here. I am emotionally traumatized. I can't sleep. I can't concentrate. I have cloudy brain. And then they finally come in to see me and we figured it out. And I always ask them, they say, why do I feel like this? I say, ma'am, why wouldn't you?
I'd like to thank United Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. United Charitable is a national nonprofit that focuses on guiding you on your charitable journey. Whether you like to simply streamline your giving or you like to create your own charitable initiative, United Charitable has the knowledge and resources to support you. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our bio. I think as women, we wear so many hats, and a lot of the time we wear hats at the same time, which is incredibly hard. And one of the things that very struck me when I met you is I was sitting down with you and I was telling you about my thyroid issue.
Yes.
And you were the first person that was like, okay, here are 3 books you have to read to teach you about really what it means to have a thyroid condition.
Yes.
And I never, I've been to my endocrinologist, I have my OBJ, like all the things. But I read about it online, but I never really thought about reading specific books on what is happening in my body and how my body processes things differently. And it was such an empowering moment for me where you really was like, listen, educate yourself on your body.
Healthcare is self-care. Like, true self-care is healthcare. You're supposed to come to us physicians when there's something wrong.
Right.
But to prevent that, self-care, true self-care happens in how you take care of your body. Once you get to us, it should be that there's something wrong besides your annual preventative visit.
And why is self-care so important?
It's so important because if you don't take care of yourself, so I look at it like this, there's like this neutral point and we have reserve. As we're young, we have this reserve. And if you don't take care of yourself, you basically get rid of your reserve until you come down. You hit it, and now you've toppled over because you're down here and you're deficient. So in order to stay where you're taking care of yourself and have the energy to do the things that you want to do, you have to keep filling your bucket, or the bucket will slowly seep out, and then you topple over, and now you're deficient. So you have to continue pouring into yourself.
And how do you help women pour into themselves, or what do you recommend?
So one thing that I do, the first thing that comes to mind is, if a woman is legitimately having a difficult time at work, I have no problem taking a woman out on FMLA so that she has 3 months to rest her mind, body, and soul. But I give them homework. You have to go to therapy every week. You have to be in church every week. You have to meditate. You have to be in nature. You have to talk to a therapist. You might need to start this medicine or start this supplement. You need to go get, an IV. I basically put them on an entire regimen to reset. If they have the capability, you have paid into short-term disability. You have paid into, this is a federal mandate that you can get 3 months off if you are about to topple over. And I find that quite a bit, especially with COVID, especially with teachers and healthcare workers, that I literally had to remove them from work and put them on a game plan that their job for 3 months was to take care of themselves and then go back to work.
Why do you think as women we have such trouble taking care of ourselves?
We are nurturers and we're so used to giving. They are even saying that they were comparing male and female physicians, that female physicians are more burned out because patients talk more to us because we're naturally nurturing. So we have to talk more and give 5 more minutes to each patient, and that adds up if you see 20. It is very difficult for us to take care of ourselves. We're so used to nurturing and taking care of everyone else.
Yeah.
And also the whole thing, we were talking about how we would give our children top of the line, organic, butcher box, this and that, and then drive through. You think, okay, just this one time is just this one time. And that one time turns into the week, the month, and the year. And the next thing you know, you're exhausted, not sleeping at night, drinking energy drinks or coffee, you're obese, you don't feel well.
Yep.
And you actually need, you'll go get ADHD medicine or something, you get sleep apnea, you're getting vitamin deficiencies. And basically, I find women that come to me when they've already toppled over, when they've already exhausted all of their reserve.
And can we get it back if we start taking care of ourselves?
Yes. There are certain things when it comes to blood pressure and kidney disease and diabetes that if you leave it for long enough, there is some permanent damage. But most things, I think that they have a way of being put into remission if you put systems in place. And what we find is that we think that we'll happenstance and come across a prepared meal or come across 30 minutes where we do cardio or strength training. But the thing is, if you don't plan for it, it's not going to happen. You're not going to come across 30 minutes of extra sleep. You have to plan for it. You're not going to put yourself in bed early because you're going to watch, the Dragons. That's what I did the other day. Anyways, yes.
Dragon. I'll take it any day of the week. That is the most true statement that anybody could look me in the eyes and say that to me, because I make sure my kids have the meals and the nutrition that they need, right? They have the exercise. They go to we were talking about gymnastics, horseback riding, taekwondo, all the things that they do to make sure that they have their physical activity to keep themselves strong. But I'm like, I'll just find 30 minutes to go for a walk. Or it'll just happen that I'll be able to cook salmon that I didn't defrost, that I don't even have salmon.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is so important for us to schedule that time to take care of ourselves. But also too, I think there's a side of this and is also giving ourselves the grace because, and you're a 3, right? You're a
Yes.
business owner, right? You're a mom, you're a wife, you're in the media, you're all these things, right?
Yes.
And do you give yourself grace to not be perfect at all of that?
I was just having this thought process, being only a mom for a year and being high functioning and owning a practice, that because I have resources in a tribe and I have access to get resources, that I was trying to say and feel guilty for feeling tired and feeling completely depleted because other people don't have these resources and these finances to have access to this network. They have it worse off than me. So then therefore, because that's the case relative to them, I should not feel this way. But I do. I am 64 pounds overweight. My voice is cracking. This is really not my real voice because I talk so much to my patients because I love and educate them. I am not who I am. I feel like I'm a skeleton of who I am. And here's the thing. There is access to knowledge. Like I know what I'm supposed to do, but have I committed to doing it? No. The thought process is I'm still pumping milk for my twins. And if you exercise and try to slim down your calories and fat and stuff, that your production's going to go down. So I said, okay, I'm going to take my vitamins and I'm going to eat healthy, but afterwards I still have chips and ice cream afterwards, Yeah. I compartmentalize. Yeah. Am I doing this or not? There is no gray of just start. That's me. I compartmentalize. So I basically said, I'm at the end of this pumping journey. They're chunky. They don't look preemie anymore. It is time to start the self-care journey. And I'm using all the resources that I have to do that. Like in August of 2024 is when I'm going to start my journey. Exactly how
2 weeks.
Yes.
For you. For really.
There was a demarcation in the sand. I have to do it. I'm tripoding, which means I have to push myself up from seated with the kids with my hands to get up. I'm a D1 athlete. I'm used to just like popping up.
You're a baller. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Or waking up and like having to walk my joints out because they're hurting. Yeah. I'm not used to that.
It's so funny because too, going into what you said, I feel guilty for feeling sad. I feel guilty for feeling ungrateful at times. And, specifically for me, and my kids are older than you, I have a 7 and 10-year-old. Sometimes that 7-year-old wants that extra book or wants her back rubbed or just, wants mommy to do her hair, like all these things. And sometimes I can feel so overwhelmed with my life, but the thought of like braiding her hair can take me to a new level. Yeah. Like, how am I going to get this done? I have to get to a meeting. I don't want to be late. I need to look a certain way, right? And so then I either give up on blow drying my hair, all the things. And then sometimes I feel so bad about that because here I am, a mother of 2 beautiful, strong, healthy girls. And how could I feel ungrateful that my kid wants me to braid her hair?
You just can't do all the things at the same time. You have to pick and choose. There's huge things. There's, your relationship with God or your higher being. There's your marriage. There's the children. There's your career. And then there's yourself. A lot of times there is no such thing as balance. It's that you prioritize a couple of those so that you can be stellar in that versus being trash or mediocre in all of them.
And that's it. And it's funny because I tend to prioritize work and my kids.
And yes, I'm the same.
Everything else goes. Like, I love my husband. I do. But to sit there and watch a 3-hour Phillies game with him, who's got time?
I got stuff to do, sir.
Who's got time? And or the same thing, like with my going for a walk, I'm like, oh, but I'm going to sweat and then I'm going to have to redo my, like, it's this unrealistic. But I love what you suggested of scheduling the time.
You have to. You're not going to fall upon good sleep or exercise. You have to plan it. I mean, the kids have practice afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Surf practice.
Yeah.
Summer.
Yeah.
Horseback riding. Yeah. Or people have to be to work at 8 o'clock. It's scheduled so they're there because they planned for it.
Right.
If you don't plan for it, it's not going to happen.
So I'm really going to try to implement that in my own life is scheduling my self-care. Yeah. Scheduling the things that I know are going to definitely take care of me.
Yeah.
And what fulfillment do you get out of helping the women that you've helped feel strong about themselves and their bodies?
Because of insurance and healthcare and where it has gone, because we're not getting reimbursed the same amount, we have to increase the volume of patients that we see. So I see anywhere from 18 to like 23 patients a day. And I try to provide a magical experience for every person by being vulnerable in a safe space for them. And at the end of the day, because as a physician, I'm sacrificing having to chart for 20 people and providing that safe space where these women who wear the hats and they're the strong people, and now with me, the tears flow, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, I'd say half of the time, my brain is a noodle at the end of the day that I have to decompress and chill and get, reassert my energy so I can go home and be with my babies. And I say to myself, feeling this way physically and mentally, where I am very noodle-brained, would you do anything different? And at the end of that day, I say, no, I do it exactly the same way because I made a difference in their life. But because I poured into 20 women that day, I'm going to have to start finding a way, and I will, to pour back into myself so it doesn't feel as exhausting because my cup's full when I enter work versus being right at neutral that when I give, I'm at a deficit.
Right. So explain that. Explain that resource thing to us about what self-care really does.
So you're pouring back into yourself. So it's multiple things. It is, number one, going to the physician so that you need to go to your doctor every single year, someone that you know and knows you, so that you have a baseline. When we have a baseline of labs and how we know who you are, every single year, if something's off, we know something's wrong because we know your baseline.
Right.
In 2022, I had a 38-year-old woman who passed away from leukemia 2 weeks after I saw her for the first time. And I thought to myself, if she had gone to a primary care physician or someone who drew her blood count within the last 2 to 3 years, she probably could have gotten treatment, and she had 5 children. So that hit home, like you have to do preventative.
Right.
But there's different parts of sleep too. Prioritizing that you will put yourself in bed and put your phone away so that you can actually fall asleep when melatonin drops. Melatonin drops, that is our sleep hormone that keeps our circadian rhythm going, around like 10 o'clock. And so if you push past that tired time period, you get a second wind, and now you're going to sleep at 1 o'clock, and then you have to be up at 5 or 6.
Right.
So basically prioritizing that I will be in bed, I will have the curtains closed, I will turn my cell phone off and read instead, because any type of tablet or TV has blue light. Blue light blocks your melatonin. So you want to make sure that's the case. So sleep, and then the foods that you're eating. There is this guy on YouTube. His name is Sten Ekberg.
Okay.
And he talks about 10 foods you should eat and 10 foods you should not eat. So I always tell my patients, if you want an overall list of what is healthy and what is not, there's so much out there. And even us physicians, we only have 4 hours of nutrition education in medicine. That's me, only 4 hours. That even doctors don't know what's healthy or not healthy. This whole exercise and eat less calories is complete BS. So anyways, he does a good job of saying, this is the things that you should eat and you shouldn't, because most of the time, what we think is healthy is not.
Okay.
And what we think is not healthy is not healthy. So then there's food, there's sleep, there's food, there's movement. Making sure that you are outside in nature where you're actually getting access to nature, which can decompress you. Some people I know have not put their feet on Mother Nature for an entire year. It's basically concrete jungle,
Right.
Like they literally can't remember when they went to a beach or went to the woods or put their feet on grass,
Yeah.
So there's that component of decompressing and resting. There's food, there's exercise, there's multiple components and tenets of health.
And I think that's so interesting because a lot of the times we get sold what self-care is, right? Manicures, facials. I mean, all that stuff is lovely. Don't get me wrong. I love all of this.
Yeah.
But the idea of self-care is eating correctly, making sure your sleep is strong, making sure that you are in vitamin D with Mother Nature, something down there, right?
The goal vitamin D for white people is 70, and the goal vitamin D for Black people is 60. And we just think that the cutoff, once it's 30, we're good. No, you're still deficient because vitamin D affects your mood, bones, immune system, and your energy.
I love hearing this because, again, with the self-care, it's so important for us as women and examples, right? I have 2 daughters.
Yes.
So I'm their example of what taking care of yourself is. And to really start teaching them about eating healthy and giving your body the right, whatever it needs to survive.
Yeah.
That's part of loving yourself.
It's more difficult now because what we allow into the grocery store is horrible. You know, in Europe, a lot of things are blocked, but we have to actually take vitamins and supplements now because the way that our farmers farm, it used to be where you rotate the crops, right? So this is a different type of crop on its little plot, and then you rotate them because this one will take some vitamins, but it also will replete it.
Right.
But now you're not rotating. You basically grow corn on this land for 25 years in a row. So, you know, corn or whatever, is it fiber? Sure, it's fiber. But it being mineral and vitamin dense, heck no. No. So it's very difficult. So you do have to supplement. So me personally and my family, we actually take Juice Plus, which is fruits, vegetables, and berries, vine ripened, dehydrated, crushed up, and put into capsules because I don't know if I can get the proper vitamins and minerals from the food that we're eating the rainbow.
And that's so interesting. And you hit on this before, but I kind of want you to talk about it a little bit more. How important it is for us to get the right nutrients. Like, what does that, if we don't have it, how does it affect our body?
When you have the right vitamins and minerals to do the things that you need to do hormonally and in the endocrine system, you will optimally perform. So one thing that I saw, and my mentor, Dr. Ellie Campbell, she's a family medicine, integrative holistic doctor, said, one of the reasons why people can't lose weight, half of it is fat, but the other half is edema, that you don't have what you need to get rid of the weight. It is water weight, it is swelling. And she said that you need proper vitamins and minerals for your body to be able to do that. An example is we're surrounded by heavy metals. Like we ingest heavy metals. They're not good for your vital organs. So what will your body do? Your body will form fat pockets like cellulitis and push the heavy metal into your thighs or your arms away from your vital organs, your heart and your lungs. And until you have the proper vitamins and minerals to chelate, break that metal down and safely get it out of your system where you pee and poo it out, you're going to keep that fat there until you have the capability to get that heavy metal out of your body. So no matter what you do, how much you exercise and what you do, unless you have the proper vitamins and minerals and the proper microbiome, that heavy metal is going to stay in that fat pocket, in that cellulitis, in your leg.
See, that's
is an example.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you help women take their first step?
What usually happens, this happens multiple times a day in clinic, is they will have reached the end of their capacity to continue doing what they've been doing, which is wearing all the hats and not taking care of themselves. So the first thing, I let them cry. I let them just get it out, get those tears out, give them some tissue. And then I do a whole plethora of labs looking at any deficiencies or anything that I can see. I look at thyroid, I look at blood count, I look at vitamin B, vitamin D, multiple things. Now, if there's something, or even iron, a lot of women, menstruating have low iron. I'll check those basic things because a lot of times there's a combination that it could be those. So then I may put them on supplements that will help replete that, as well as maybe send them to the hematologist who I send to Dr. Laveau, and she'll do some iron infusions. Now, the women might feel better with that. Then if they still don't feel well, I look further, but I go to those, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, those low-hanging fruit. When it comes to mental health, I always ask my patients that I want them to walk in nature 2 to 3 times a week to decompress with their phone off or with their phone away. Because even if you're still on your phone, you're not noticing nature. And most people have an EAP, Employee Assistance Program, where there's free counseling. I ask them every single year, just like you come to me for a preventative exam, you need to go see the therapist for preventative mental health.
Wow.
And so that's how I usually start, and I take a layer off at a time. Let's do this part, then that part. But I also tell them, if you're mind, body, soul, I'm only in charge of a third, the physical part. The mind and the soul and the emotions, that's you. You have to help me help you.
So we're doing all this. We're giving back to the community, right? We're helping women discover themselves, and men. Sorry, I don't want to leave that demographic out. We're a mom, but you've also then taken on another journey with White Coats and Gavel.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
we live in Atlanta, which is the minority, the people of color, like Mecca, Atlanta. And statistically, only 2% of physicians are Black females, and only 2% of attorneys are Black women. And so I don't know why we're here and those two didn't mesh together and form a partnership. I was asked by GABWA, which is the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, to come speak on a panel back in 2019. And I said, guys, I'm in a group called Mocha Docs, which is all the women of color physicians in Atlanta. We need to do a mixer. And so I put a mixer together back, and we actually had it March of 2020.
Right before.
Literally a week before the pandemic and everything shut down. And so that actually helped accelerate us together because we formed a Facebook group, and there's like 1,700 of us now. Basically, every woman of color, physician, attorney, and judge in Atlanta and surrounding areas were in it together. So why did we need each other? Everybody was talking about, like, should my son wear a mask? Does anybody have access to the vaccine? What do you think about this? So all the attorneys and judges ask questions, and then we chime in and say, hey, here's the answer, or hey, here's the gastroenterologist, I'll get you in next week. It's a bunch of professional courtesy. And then an example for me that I needed help with is that when I needed to go back to work, I was getting a different type of mask than I thought, the N95 mask that I thought I was supposed to get to go to work. I was asking, do I have any rights here in corporate American medicine where I could command that they give me the mask that I need, that I know prevents COVID from infecting me? So just asking questions back and forth. Or even one time I got this speeding ticket, and I thought I winked enough and smiled at the cop enough, but it didn't work. So one of the Gavels actually represented me in court pro bono, and then I'm her primary care physician. So there's a bunch of professional courtesy. There's a bunch of mixture. We do 2 mixtures a year, and now we're heading into the nonprofit space, which is where you come in.
Yep.
My goal is to get that 2% and the 2% to be 5% within the next 5 years by providing tutoring, the blueprint to get into medical school and law school through us, through our mentorship, and raising money to provide the money in order to apply to schools, because it can be expensive.
And why this demographic? Why does your heart call to this?
Because when it comes to law, representation matters. So I know of a judge in Cobb County, where we are right now, who boosted out the incumbent and is basically, the cases that she sees through a lens that there is not having to look past culture to actually see the human being that she's making judgment off of, versus a lot of times if you have people, most of the time, someone who doesn't look like you, doesn't suffer the same life experiences, you don't see that part of it that is the reason why this person went through that. You don't see you don't see the humanistic component to that. And another example would be in a hospital, I saw that a patient had a white nurse, and so this Black female was tapping her head. Do you know that the nurse had the doctor, a white physician, call psych on her because they thought she was crazy for tapping her head? But if it was a Black nurse who knows that if this woman has weave, that's her way of kind of scratching her head, then they wouldn't have called psych. She's not crazy. She's just scratching her head because she has hair in her head. And so that happens, and there's so much that happens. And another example, you might say that a Black man who has diabetes is not compliant on his insulin, but you as a physician didn't ask what his access is to healthcare. You prescribed a medicine that he couldn't afford and doesn't have access to, and nor does he know how to take it. So you are picturing him with the broad stroke of being non-compliant, when it was you not doing your due diligence to make sure he had the finances and the education to have access to the medicine and know how to take it. So there's a lot of disconnect. And when you have representation in somebody who has the same experience as you, then you bypass that cultural, social, psycho part of things and get straight to the heart. And you practice medicine better. You practice law better. Representation matters.
And so you said your goal is to increase it from 2 to 5%.
In 5 years, yep.
And what would that take? Donations?
Yes, it would take putting together galas and going around the country and speaking on why this is important. That there is this disconnect that other races have access to the blueprint. If someone before you went to law school or medical school, which is common in other races, they can teach you how to apply, right? There's a blueprint and there's mentorship. They tell you what classes you need to take, how you need to shadow, who you need to be connected with to get to the next step. Because a lot of times, once you get in front of them and have your in-person interview, you sell them. But most people don't know how to do it on paper or with their GPA or with their shadowing or with their clinical experience. So if you give the mentorship to provide the blueprint, and then a lot of times those people don't come from families that come from wealth. They don't have generational wealth. And so if we were to provide the finances so that those people could apply, because it takes thousands of dollars, if you remove the financial restraint, if you remove the fact that that person doesn't know how to apply because they don't have a mentor,
right?
You give those two, then that increases the number of people who will actually be encouraged to apply and get into medical school and law school.
And when do you touch them? When they're in college? Like, when do you start touching these individuals?
I would say the inspiration starts in high school, and then in college is where they have to do their due diligence to put themselves in a position to get into school. It starts in like freshman and sophomore year for medicine. So we'll have mentors that are law. But for me, I started doing clinical and shadowing and being in the hospital as a sophomore.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So it starts early to position yourself to be competitive to get in.
And who was your mentor that early?
So,
or did you just have more of a hustle?
100. I was an MBA girlfriend. So I had finances. He was the vessel. He broke my heart, but he got me into medical school. Thank you, sir. So I was lucky enough to be in a relationship with somebody who had the financial capability to help me apply. And when I did not do good with my MCAT and I didn't know how to apply, I used a Kaplan advisor. So Kaplan is this prep company for the MCAT.
Yeah.
And he gave me the finances to have her guide me through how to look good on paper, because the first one was atrocious. I did it all on my own. I just thought, okay, take this MCAT, do this. It didn't look good enough, and my score wasn't high enough to look good on paper enough to get the interview where I would wow them, because in person, I'm going to wow you.
Right.
So I got the mentoring from Kaplan because he gave me the finances to do so. And she taught me how to apply and then taught me how to speak once while I was in the interview. So it was mentorship, but I was lucky enough to be an MBA girlfriend for a couple years. Yes.
What I love about you is that you are the definition of an inspired change maker. Somebody that have spent their entire life really giving back and helping people change and succeed and thrive. It has been absolutely a pleasure to speak to you today. I admire you so much and for everything that you're fighting for. And it has been a pleasure to talk to you today.
I had so much fun. It's too short. We could do this for 3 hours.
Absolutely.
Like we just hit the icing. There was no cake.
I know, exactly. But again, thank you so much for being on today, Dr. Joy. You are a breath of fresh air, a beacon of real hope that, we can figure ourselves out. And there's people out there that we can go to, professionals that really can rally us.
Yeah.
And all the change that you want to see in this world. I'm so excited to be able to support you on your journey.
Thank you. It was an honor to share space with you today.
I would like to thank Athletes Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. Athletes Charitable offers a concierge membership service that provides the tools and resources to build a legacy through service. Our athlete-led team has the first-hand experience and expertise to provide hands-on support that simplifies the entire process for athletes and entertainers to reach their social entrepreneurship goals and create lasting impact in their communities. To learn more, check out the link in the bio.
Find Inspired Changemakers on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and comment on all the awesome things you are doing to make this world a better place. Don't forget to subscribe.